I'm going to show you an exploit for Mini Motorways that you have to know if you ever want to get a high score. Literally everybody who has global high scores in this game is using this exploit. So how the exploit works is if you place road tiles, nothing can spawn in those spots while the road tiles are there. And if nothing's driving on those road tiles, you can just pick them back up. So whenever you have extra road tiles, you want to use them to block spawns. So to demonstrate how this works, if you've ever played this game, you know that the first house always spawns next to the second house always starts next to the first house. So you'll see here, if I place all my road tiles around here, the other house that spawns will spawn basically in the middle of nowhere. Okay, I'm out of road tiles. So now, I'm gonna let it play. And there it is. You see that it forces the house to go over there. And at any point, I can pick these back up. And you should always be doing this with your roads whenever you have extra roads. In order to control the spawns, manually choose where things go, basically. But there's generally, you're not going to have enough roads to exactly pick where things go, generally. But you can do things where you're like, I don't want, I always call them factories. I don't want a factory to spawn over here. So I'm going to block over here. Also, you're going to want to like protect entrances to make sure that you don't get a bunch of stuff like clustered in. You're going to want to protect the factories and make sure you don't get them doubled up where you have them right beside each other. You want to leave space. That's how you're going to want to use this exploit. And generally, diagonals are better than straight lines in most places because diagonals will block a lot more. And for factories, the basic factories use 2x6. So you can use diagonals to block a lot. So if you see here, we have a 2x6 here. A factory could spawn here. But if I do it diagonal, I also block, I also block the 2x6 over here. So there's a 2x6 over here. I could place one like this. And now I got all of this space blocked with only 2 road tiles. So that is one thing to keep in mind when doing this in order to control where factories spawn. So now if I were to play like this, as long as the map doesn't expand and give more space, if another factory spawns, it will have to spawn somewhere over here because there is no space left for a factory over here. So you can use this to control spawns, you can use this to manipulate the game, and every single person who has a global high score in Mini Motorways is using this exploit in order to control the spawns. It's the only way that you can manage to get things in a way where there's enough space to make proper roadways that don't get like clustered and jammed and then people, you lose. It's the only way to keep the space. And even with doing this exploit, you're still going to be relying on luck to get a good run where things spawn where you want. Biggest one, though, also later on, is if, say, you have all the red houses over here, and suddenly one spawns over here, and further, say this was somewhere you do not want this house. Let's say this house was on the other side of the map, surrounded by purple factories, and there's no way to get to it. At that point, you should be concerned that it's going to spawn even more red houses over there. And if you don't have a motorway, well, you're in trouble because now these red houses that you need are in an area that is basically inaccessible. And if you try to get it to go across, it's too long of a drive and it'll get in the way of all these other things. So what you're going to do in that situation is you're going to, if you have the road tiles, you're going to try to block as much space around that house as you possibly can. And if you block enough space, usually about 2 to 3 tiles out from it in all directions, the game will stop spawning houses near it. If you leave too much space, though, like if I were to leave this space open, that's close enough to the red house that it would say, okay, well, we're going to keep this cluster going. Let's put a red house here and connect it here, So you want to, if you have the roadways and you see one like crop up somewhere that you do not want it, you want to block it in, if possible, in order to get the game to go put it somewhere else. And you'll see it happen. If, say, this factory upgrades and it's going to throw you 2-3 new houses, you see one pop up, you don't want it, you block all around it, and then the next one, it'll put it somewhere totally different. It'll try some other spot. And if the new spot is somewhere that you do want, then you want to make sure that there's space around the new spot, so it'll keep on making a new little suburb there of whatever color. So that's another way that you can control the spawns using this in order to manipulate the game. And that is about all there is to say as far as the exploit itself. I'm going to be making a tips and tricks video for this, so make sure you subscribe for that or check through my other videos, or hopefully I'll link in the description when it's done. But that is the exploit, but I'll be going to tips and tricks for other things that will help you in this game later on. So now you know the exploit that all the high score players are using in Mini Motorways.